Olá pessoal, vamos falar sobre português. Before we get into today's video, however, there are just a few things I wanted to talk about. I've been doing lives on my channel as a way to interact with all of you who watch my videos, as well as answer the questions that maybe don't have enough of a response for a full video. I've done 3 lives so far, and I've been really enjoying interacting with all of you who watch my channel, and it's been a great way to answer more questions and talk about things about the Portuguese language. So I'm planning on doing more lives once or twice a month, and I've been posting about when I'm going to go live on the community tab and on Twitter. So if you follow me in either one of those places, you'll know when I'm going to go live. Patrons on my Patreon also know when I'm going to go live just a little bit in advance so that they can plan it into their schedules if they so please. So if you leave me a comment on any one of my videos with a question that you'd like answered about the Portuguese language or about linguistics in general, I'm answering those questions in my lives. Of course, if there's enough material for a video, I will also make a video. My videos are not going anywhere, but the lives have been really fun and I've been really enjoying them. So if you're watching this video and that's something you'd be interested in, I hope to see you in my next one. I do my lives in both Portuguese and English, translating from both simultaneously to the best of my abilities. So although I don't have subtitles in them like I do with my videos, everybody is covered in some way. The live videos also stay up on my channel for you to watch if you can't make it to the live, so don't worry, those will always be there. And speaking of community, if you didn't know, I have a Discord server for this channel where people who are interested in Portuguese, English, linguistics in general, and other cultural topics can come chat about whatever they feel like. People chat in Portuguese and English on the server, and you can get your questions about Portuguese, linguistics, English, or what have you answered by people who are interested in similar topics to you there. So if you're looking for a community of people who are interested in those things, you can come join my Discord server and chat with other like-minded people. You might improve your Portuguese, or you might learn some more English, but it is whatever you make of it. If that's something you'd be interested in, you can find the invite link to my Discord server in the description of my videos, as well as directly on my channel. As I mentioned before, people who joined my Patreon get to know about when I'm going to go live first. I post there a little bit in advance before I post on my YouTube community tab or on Twitter. And I have other benefits for my patrons, such as source materials from my videos, as well as postcards that I send from me to you. So if you're enjoying my videos and you'd like to support me and my channel, you can do so on Patreon. Every dollar goes a long way to helping me be able to make these videos for you. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, head on over to patreon.com/Sashinka, where you can find out all of the info. Now, let's get back to the video. So today's video is going to be another video in my Bom Português series. Today we're going to be talking about Melhor versus MAIS BEM. And Melhor versus MAIS BEM is a topic that has an endless amount of questions and answers about it on the internet. It is a widespread point of confusion, and there are no shortage of grammarians who are aghast when people say things like melhor feito or melhor preparado. So theoretically, this should be fairly straightforward because I could point you to any number of sources and close out the video. But I also want to dig a little bit into why in this video. The basic rules of Melhor versus MAIS BEM are fairly straightforward. We use Melhor as a comparative form of bem and bom, except for where bem modifies a participle. A participle is a verb form that functions like an adjective, so we're talking about forms like feito, preparado, and so on. In Portuguese, in some cases, bem is so frequently used with these participles that there is a hyphenated form of the adjective that forms a compound adjective. I'm talking about forms like bem-humorado and bem-vindo. So in those cases, if we want to have the comparative form, or say more, we would use mais. It would only make sense to say mais bem-vindo instead of melhor vindo, and we have a visual indicator of this because bem-vindo is written with a hyphen. But regardless of the hyphen, in normative Portuguese, we say mais bem when we have a participle. So that could be mais bem feito, mais bem preparado, mais bem-vindo, and so on. Virtually all grammarians, including prestige publications like those of Celso Cunha and Lindley Sintra, agree that mais bem is the preferable comparative form when used with the participle. This is is not necessarily a controversial point of contention, and yet there are people who go on the television, or write on the internet, or write articles, or what have you, that have forms like melhor preparado. As terrible as those forms sound to many people in Portuguese, let's dig into why that might happen. Comparative forms in Romance languages are not altogether consistent. Not all Romance languages form the comparatives in the same way. And if you are a speaker of French or Spanish, you will surely know that there is no equivalent to MAIS BEM in those languages. It would appear to me that only Romanian uses a similar form of MAIS BEM in this form of comparatives, although I am less familiar with Romanian, so if you happen to speak Romanian or are just more familiar with it, feel free to leave me a comment about it down below. So if Spanish or French can have melhor feito, why can't we in Portuguese? And there are a couple of different elements to this answer. The first answer is simply that language rules are not based strictly in hard science. Grammatical rules and correctness are a matter of convention and groups of people who speak the same language coming together to determine that a certain form is more acceptable than others in terms of communication. Which is why you can have discrepancies between highly similar related languages, like in Portuguese where we always say maior instead of mais grande, but the equivalent of mais grande in French and Spanish is perfectly normal. And convention applies to all different types of linguistic usage. That can be grammar, but it can also be orthography. We are in an age where we have treaties and we have language academies that determine good usage of the language based on things like historical usage of the language. It all comes down to convention, and it's not just the academies and the treaties that determine convention. These conventions are also influenced by prestige usage in the form of journalistic and academic and other forms of usage. I mentioned journalistic and academic usage in particular because especially journalistic and to a lesser extent academic usage have to adapt to the constantly shifting and changing nature of language over time much more rapidly than other formal uses of language like legal language. Because journalism interacts with the public on a much more frequent basis and academic usage is always adapting to modern understandings of how the world works in all of the various disciplines, these more formal forms of language adapt more quickly to the way that people are actually using the language, as opposed to necessarily what is determined as correct forms as dictated by treaties or academies or what have you. There are many prestige publications of things like grammars that are used as grammatical references that don't technically have anything to do with the academies that govern the Portuguese language. The same is also true of things like orthographic conventions. To take the old orthographic agreement as an example, we can look to the publication O Público in Portugal. O Público continues to write according to the 1945 Orthographic Convention, and in that way they influence what is considered good writing in Portugal according to the 1945 Orthographic Agreement. Simply put, language is what we make of it, and so the more people use a certain form, the more likely it is to become accepted and actually in fact used by more prestigious users of the language. So the simple answer as to why we say mais bem instead of melhor in front of participles is quite simply that in Portuguese, over time, this is what has been considered correct. It sounds more natural to Portuguese-speaking ears to say mais bem feito or mais bem preparado than it does to say melhor feito or melhor preparado, not because there's something intrinsic about those forms that is somehow grammatically superior, but because that is the convention that has been established over time. In any case, if you are speaking or writing in a more formal way or just watching your words, you'll always want to make sure that you're saying mais bem before participle. So I hope this video helped to clear up mais bem versus melhor for you and explain a little bit about why we use it. E assim se fala em bom português.